the biggest loser in all of this, it's Auburn. I am a believer in giving guys second chances, sometimes on the back of a milk cart and sometimes on the front of Sports Illustrated.
Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crane.
What's up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining us on a Friday. Hope you guys are getting a good vibe heading into the weekend. Got a great show for you, a great lineup, but we have to start with what's going on in the Plains. Bryan Harsin in Auburn right now. If you haven't heard the news, there's a huge disconnect between the roster of players. Auburn has had 25 players leave in the transfer portal. You have Board of Trustee members meeting right now about potential litigation. ESPN articles coming out, Bryan Harsin having to defend himself due to rumors and allegations, whether it's on Instagram from players, on Twitter from players that have departed, players that have been staying. It's just an all-out war at Auburn right now. Where I want to start with this is whenever you have a situation like this, and they're rare, but they do happen, you have to kind of follow the developments as they have gone, because these things go in sequence. What do I mean by that? The Auburn Board of Trustees met on the basketball side to approve a new practice facility for Bruce Pearl, or whatever they want, a golden statue to put out in front of the city council there in Auburn. But they met to approve that. And then you started hearing some leaks about Bryan Harsin's job being in jeopardy. Maybe he's a little overwhelmed. I'm not going to go into some of the other rumors right now that are innuendo until they are proven. And unless it's concrete, I'm not going to dive into somebody's personal life on accusations that I can't sit here and look at and say, all right, they're true, or that anybody has told me are true. What I have been told is that there is a good possibility that not only Bryan Harsin will not be retained as Auburn's head coach, but A.D. Allen Green may not be retained as athletic director. But in the bigger picture of this, regardless if you're on Team Harsin, if you're on the administration side or the booster side, if you're on the players' side that are saying they were mistreated, or if you're on the other players' side that's saying they weren't mistreated, Harsin is tough love, this, that, and the other. One, I don't think you survive this when it gets out in the big picture like this. I don't know if this is something that you can come back from if you're Bryan Harsin and this staff. But the biggest loser in all of this, it's Auburn. It's Auburn. It's not the boosters. It's not the fans. It's not the players. It's the whole program. It's everything associated with Auburn. On the one hand, if he is let go, you have to have a coaching search in a time it's not great with supply. We'll get into a little bit of if this does happen, who I think they would look at or who I think they should look at. But not really any good comes out of this. You've already had a ton of guys leave. So now guys that have signed, whether it be in the new signing day in December or the late signing period in February, which was the old signing day, you're going to have even more attrition because these kids signed up to play for Bryan Harsin. But what is the root of the problem here? And without all the facts, it's hard to delve into it. There's a lot of conjecture. But when it gets out in the public like this, when there's accusations like this, when the board is meeting about potential litigation, that's foreshadowing for something bad's coming down the pipe for either party. Very rarely do these meetings happen. Do these things happen in the public eye? You have ESPN running articles. Harsin is having to defend himself to the national media. That doesn't happen on its own. If nothing was going on, if somebody reached out to Bryan Harsin, he would have said no comment. But to me, he feels forced, like he has to defend himself. But whichever side of the fence you're on, and I personally don't think he survives this as Auburn's head coach. Do I think they are going to fire him? Fire him with cause? I doubt that. I think it would be more of a buyout, more of a settlement. And to grade Bryan Harsin up to this point, you have to look at things in increments as well. I've always said on the show, I've been in the coaching world. Even with the transfer portal, it takes 2 to 3 years when you're having to change the style of a program, get it molded in the image you want, the personnel you want to fit the system you want to run, which is different than the previous system that Auburn ran under Gus Malzahn. It takes time. Auburn started 6-2. Bryan Harsin was one of the most popular guys in Auburn. Hey, made the right decision. This guy's going to be great. Then they fell off a cliff. Ended up blowing leads against Mississippi State, losing to South Carolina, losing to Houston in the Birmingham Bowl, which, isn't exactly a great Gatsby party reward at the end of the year. But all the chaos, and we've mentioned this before, all the turmoil, whether it's coordinators leaving, Derek Mason, Mike Bobo, Austin Davis comes in, resigns due to personal reasons. National Signing Day, you lose players on National Signing Day. You're not able to bring in the offensive line personnel. And people will say, and I agree, in the 2022 class, it's almost a wash. And it's not like they finished 60th. Had a top 20 class. Did they meet the needs they really need to meet? I don't think so. Games won and lost up front. But the 2023 class, you have time to build relationships. Recruiting is about relationships. You're not just going to swoop in unless you're the biggest offer. If a kid's got like Western Kentucky and Toledo, no disrespect to them, but then an Auburn team or an SEC school comes in and throws them an offer, a lot of those kids are going to take it. Why would you not? It's one thing to work at a mom and pop shop, and it's another thing to get hired at Walmart. So Bryan Harsin on the field toward the end and then in the offseason, it's been all chaos and negativity. And the people that wanted him out at the beginning, that didn't like the hire, and fueled by rumors and innuendo, are seeing a chance. But when you look in the public eye and the optics of it, the damage is already done, in my opinion. The cat's already out of the bag. If you retain him, what's that relationship like now? You don't think Georgia and Alabama and Texas A&M and LSU and Arkansas and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Tennessee and South Carolina are going to use this against them in recruiting? Of course they will. The best ability right now in college football is stability. Auburn hasn't had that since they were 6-2. Haven't had it during the offseason. And when you look at the way the ship's pointing for Alabama, the way the ship's pointing for Georgia, A&M just signed a mega class. Auburn is one of the most unstable programs in the SEC, and now it's out for the world to see. The whole world can see it. I don't think Bryan Harsin is going to survive this. And if he does, the waters are going to be as choppy as they've ever been. But remember this, regardless if you're Team Harsin, you're Team Booster, if you're on the players' side that want him gone or say they were mistreated, or the players' side that said they're tough love, the biggest loser in this is Auburn. What do you guys think?
How much of this has to do with winning and losing? I hate to see us get to a point where unacceptable conduct is overlooked as long as you're winning. And on the flip side of that, right, everything you do is condemned if you're losing. You see what I'm saying? So in this case specifically, there's been things said like, Bryan Harsin's not a nice guy. Bryan Harsin's not a people person. I've heard all those same things about Coach Nick Saban, right? So is that something we would be talking about today if he went 12-0 last season? Or if his behavior was more egregious, more inappropriate, more unethical, right? Is that something that we would be talking about if he went 12-0 last season?
Here's the way we have to talk about the real world. But like we can paint a fantasy of it's all equal, everybody needs to be treated the way that they act, regardless if they're 12-0 or 0-12. But that's not how the world works. That's not how it works in the SEC and at high-level college football. So if we're talking about the real world, if Auburn went 10-2 and beat Bama, you wouldn't be hearing any of this.
None of it. No matter what he did.
You would. Now look. If we're talking about mistreating players, verbally abusing players, whatever. The game's different nowadays. You can't go about it how you did back then. But I haven't seen him do that. You have players that said he did. You have players that said he really didn't. It was just tough love and that they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in there. I haven't seen that.
Sure.
I haven't heard that. The other rumors, which I'm not even going to give the light of day to until something comes out that is concrete, or I hear something in that vein that I feel is true, the nefariousness, if that stuff's true and you went 10-2, wouldn't be as big of a deal. It just wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it should or it shouldn't,
mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of coaches that have a lot of success. Urban Meyer. Look at Urban Meyer. I can go down the list. But it's winning hides a lot of stuff at Orgeron. Winning hides a lot at this level. When you have that pressure on you,
mm-hmm.
but the rewards are in droves.
Yeah.
They're in droves. People are going to be willing fans, which is short for what? Fanatical. And we know, especially places like Auburn, Alabama, and the SEC, those fans are diehard. Grew up in it. We know. They're way more willing to give you the benefit of the doubt when you're winning. But when you're not, and here's the problem Bryan Harsin's facing, in my opinion. And it's 1 year on the field. But the way you lost, too.
Yeah.
The way you lost. And Blaine, I know you're going to get into that, so I don't want to steal your thunder here. But you can't not win and have all this other stuff going on and expect people to put it on the rug. It's like being born on third base and thinking you hit a triple. You can't get one without the other. Either you're winning and you can get away with it, unless it's something egregious, right? That comes out that is undefendable, that is concrete. If you're winning, they're willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. But if you're not, they'll find anything. Sun shines the brightest when you're losing.
Find anything is different from making things up, right? And I'm not talking about this story specifically because we don't know the details, right? But sweeping misconduct under the rug because you're winning is bad.
I'm not saying it's right.
Is bad enough. That's bad enough. But even worse than that is if there's any making up of allegations because you're losing. If a guy's losing and you don't think he's the right coach for your team, then just say that. Like, hey, we don't believe in you. You're not getting the job done on the field. But let's not create a situation where, we're gonna attack your character and say that you're not a people person
set you up.
Or that you're tough on players. Coaches are supposed to be tough on players. So what does that mean? What are the specifics? What are you actually saying to players? What are you actually saying to the coaches who are leaving? Because it does seem like there's chaos, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to find out. Chaos. We're going to find out the facts. There has been too much chaos. I just don't want to get in this situation where it's always like, hey, you know what? You're not winning. So not only find stuff on you is different because that means you did something, but you can't make stuff up about someone.
This isn't the first time in business. It happens in the business world, too. This doesn't happen in college football. Look around. You don't think a lot of CEOs have done a lot of shady stuff? Mm-hmm. These people that have, a lot of times it happens with people with a lot of money. Like a lot of money, you can get away with it. You're super successful. So you have the resources to get away with stuff. But let's not act, this isn't the first time somebody, and I'm not saying it's true, or I'm not saying it's untrue or false. But it wouldn't be the first time that somebody didn't like somebody and that they saw a chance with that person not having success and chaos around and they saw that opportunity and grabbed it. Won't be the first time.
I kind of look at it like this. What has Bryan Harsin done right? Everyone's looking at what he's done wrong this year. What has he done right?
Great question.
And realistically, you go through it and, you can't really find a lot. All right?
But is there enough sample size? The offseason, to me, the chaos, I've talked about it.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad look. But has he had enough time? Is there enough sample size for you to say, okay, well, he's not good enough? The problem I think Bryan Harsin's facing is, okay, it's 1 year, right, on the field. The personnel wasn't where you wanted. Look at your roster structure now.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Talk about roster structure. You have some offensive linemen coming back. Well, if I have a car that didn't work in 2021 and I bring it back in 2022, that doesn't mean it automatically works. And I'm not saying every player Auburn has is bad that comes back, but the roster structure right now, people in Auburn are feeling a certain way. And I think we have a good clip to summarize the way that Auburn fans are feeling about roster structure. And when you look at this clip and you look at Auburn's roster, these are how the fans are feeling. Let's roll it.
Running out of guys out here. We're on reserves, practice squad guys. I'm ready to roll if they need me. I'm 26 years old.
We're all ready to roll.
I played 2 years varsity. I'm in the best shape of my life.
Yeah, I'm 26 years old. I played 2 years.
Let's
varsity.
Give me a call. I'll strap it up.
Yeah, let's do it.
What do you think he's done right? I mean, he had some big wins this season.
Yeah, he did, but
it
goes kind of back to what Jake said, the way you lost games. You're up 28-3 versus Mississippi State.
At home.
At home. And you're up 14-0 against South Carolina team that doesn't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
And you go back to these games, and when it comes to second halves, what are second halves about? Adjustments. It's coaching adjustments.
So all that's on the field stuff, right? So
True.
Is there a bare minimum? Let's take away any of allegations or any mistreatment of players or anything like that for 1 second and talk about him on the field. Is there a bare minimum number of seasons you have to give a guy regardless if he lost every game last year?
My rule, well, losing every game is one thing. But It depends on where you're at.
Mhm.
It depends on the standard of where you're at. At a place like Auburn, every fan base thinks the standard should be higher than maybe what it should be in reality.
Okay.
Is Auburn going to win the national championship every year in football? No. 9, 10 wins, 8 every now and then you can get away with. Look at what Gus Malzahn did. All right, he was here for a while. He couldn't beat Georgia, couldn't sign high school offensive linemen. But when you look at, in my opinion, even with the transfer portal, like I said, you can flip a program really quick in the transfer portal. I still think you need 3 years of on the field, adjustment, seeing what you can do. But Auburn's problem wasn't just personnel this year. There was some really, really bad football decisions that were made. I mean, you got guys not going out of bounds against Bama, could ice the game.
Mm-hmm.
You're throwing fades against Penn State, to a guy you really don't trust there at the end. A lot of stuff happened on the field. Some good, but Blaine said, you look at what went right. Well, Auburn broke the curse in Baton Rouge. Let's go back and watch that game.
Yeah,
Bo Nix was running around. It wasn't like everything was just getting dialed up.
and this wasn't like the LSU team.
Yeah, you scored
we're
20
used to
points.
seeing.
This wasn't a dominant LSU team. So I'm with you, Blaine, a little bit on what has gone right for Bryan Harsin.
Think about it. I mean, you lose Bo Nix to the portal.
Yep.
Right? Your guy at quarterback. That's your guy.
You started
And
6-2,
then-
almost lost to Georgia State.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people
Whoa,
forget
really
that.
did.
And I know almost, doesn't count unless it's horseshoes and hand grenades. But
You miss out on Slovis, goes to Pitt. You miss out on Grant Wells. I believe you went to West Virginia. And you settled. This is a settle for Zach Calzada, which is basically the same quarterback
Don't
that
believe
you
in him.
have in that room.
Don't believe
Which
in
is
him.
a mediocre. He's tough.
He's a
Right?
tough kid.
He's a mediocre quarterback.
tough
That's what he
kid.
is. And you're talking about getting all these offensive linemen from the transfer portal. Where are they?
Where are they?
Where are they? What, are you just going to pull them out of thin air? This stuff doesn't work like that. And this isn't Boise. All right, this is the jungle.
Yeah.
Buddy, this is the jungle.
This is it.
You're not the biggest lion in this jungle. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. You look at Tennessee and Kentucky and Missouri. What are these teams doing? They're climbing.
Yeah.
Guess what they
They're
have?
climbing.
What word did I use?
Stability.
Stability.
They're
the best
climbing.
ability right now is stability. But having said all that, you go 6-6 one year. Okay, there's been a lot of coaches that struggled in the first year, made some adjustments, figured it out. Because again, you're learning on the fly, regardless if you bring in guys that are from the South. And we'll get to candidates in a second. But the off the field stuff,
Okay. The combination.
the combination of it, it's a deadly. But now I'm telling you guys, when it's out there like this,
Yeah.
I don't think you survive it.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked if Allen Green is gone and Bryan Harsin is gone. And, you have the rumors and innuendo. I'm not going to get to that until we can find something concrete, like we said. But that is a bad combination. That's Pop Rocks and soda, man.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
it's a bad combo.
Both
And we'll see.
coordinators
And if it's
gone.
for misconduct,
All three
right?
coordinators.
If
yeah.
it's for misconduct, then I hope that an institution like Auburn would have made the same decision regardless of their record last season, right? But we'll find out more.
I would think so, but I
think it's a level of misconduct, exactly what it is.
And there will
do.
be people who say, well, some of these issues that he's dealing with, some of what we're hearing could potentially be some of the issues, wouldn't have happened if you win every game last season. For instance, you wouldn't have gotten written coordinators, right? You wouldn't have gotten written
or they would have
coordinators.
gotten they would have gotten head coaching jobs.
Exactly.
That's
You would have been
different. That's a
replacing them.
different
You would have
field.
had a Saban problem
Yeah,
rather
that's
than
a
what you're
different
doing.
field.
Or players, look, I played with a bunch of guys. There's 120 guys on the team. Everyone is upset at some point about something. So sure, you would have had a couple players, but maybe you go 12-0 last year and make it to the conference championship. The locker room is brighter, right? There is a better morale in the locker room.
Yeah.
Any other stuff we can't comment on right now and don't know, but we'll see what happens. If they were to let Bryan Harsin go at Auburn right now,
Hypothetical.
this late, right? We were just talking about this with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, with the supply being so dried up. Who would they go get?
Well, looking at the Auburn situation, if you look how it went down with Malzahn, and you look how it may go down with Harsin, again, it's a hypothetical, but you always have to be looking forward. A lot of guys at a very high level would probably look at the Auburn job and be like, I'm not taking that with what went down. So that narrows the list a little bit. You add that with the timing of it. We're in early February. That narrows down the list. But there's a couple guys out there, but there's one guy out there.
Tell me.
There's one guy out there that, in my opinion, would take it in a heartbeat. Wouldn't worry about the toxicity of what was going on. You know who that guy is?
I think I do.
It's Hugh Freeze.
Fan of the show.
I know he signed an extension with Liberty, and that's great. But deep down, Hugh Freeze is a competitor. And he's been he's seen the mountaintop.
He slayed the dragon.
He's slayed the dragon
He
before.
could come in and ball.
He understands it. He understands it. And he wants to get back. And the Bruce Pearl situation and the Hugh Freeze situation were totally different with what happened.
Yeah.
Bruce Pearl had a show cause basically because of a barbecue. Okay. Hugh Freeze was a different story. But it took Auburn's basketball program to be in the rubble. And then all of a sudden be rose from the ashes like a phoenix to get Bruce Pearl. It had to be that. It had to be, listen, I know you got this show cause. I know it was a little turmoil, whatever, but we're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony Barbie, that thing had already hit the iceberg and was sinking. They were running for the lifeboats just trying to see if there were enough. With this going out in Auburn, with the way it's gone down, if it happens like this, the biggest obstacle, in my opinion, wouldn't be whether Auburn would do it. It would be whether Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, would allow it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I don't think he would block it. Okay? I don't think he would pull a Walker Kessler and say, no, block that. Take it off the board. We're going the other way. I think what he would say is, okay, you want to hire him? We're going to audit you every year. And I know the NCAA is losing power. I get it. We're going to come in with a fine-tooth comb. You're not going to be able to get away with anything. But what if they passed? NIL. What do you do? Punish them for getting a kid a sponsorship from Guthrie's? Or, Mike's Barbecue Pit? So, to me, you can kind of skirt that. You can kind of skirt it a little bit. But Hugh Freeze knows. He knows. What did Arnold Schwarzenegger say? The Iceman cometh. So, I think he would be number one. I think he would listen. I think he would take it regardless of circumstance. And can you imagine Hugh Freeze and Bruce Pearl together?
At the same campus.
At the same damn time.
The Auburn AD, man, is just going to be...
Whoever the new AD is, you might as well look. Just, who cares?
Can't get worse than this almost.
Yeah, can't get worse than this. Let Bruce be the AD.
What do you think? Hugh Freeze?
I like Hugh. I like Matt Rule.
I think Matt Rule is the
I
second
think
one.
Matt would be a good. What he did at Baylor was great.
But I don't know if Matt would look at this situation and be like,
Pass.
I know. Well, there's not a lot of people that's going to look at this situation and be like, all right, can't wait. And another
true.
name, and I can't wait to get shot down.
oh.
I can't wait to get shot down.
This is just your...
I have a feeling. I have a feeling I know.
I just don't understand why not. All right? With NIL, with recruiting, a CEO type, go get Prime.
I don't think Deion would take the Auburn job.
Why not? Why wouldn't he?
I don't think he would.
Why not?
Because he doesn't have to.
He's a competitor, right? He wants to compete against the best, right?
He is.
Give the man.
I look, if they hired him, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world at all.
He's waiting for the Florida State job. One more season with Norvell, take the Florida State job.
I think deep down, he is.
That's what he wants.
I think that.
Are we kidding ourselves?
Because he made a commitment to the HBCUs now.
But he would take Florida State in a heartbeat.
He'd take Florida State in a heartbeat. That's Mama.
And it may come open.
That's Mama.
Mama calls and it
That's
may
Mama,
come
and that's
open.
Mama's
It may
favorite
not,
son.
but it may.
Not only is that Mama, that's Mama's favorite son.
If Auburn offered this man the job, he'd take it.
How do you
Maybe.
know that?
Did you talk to him?
I know Hugh
let's
Freeze
talk
would
about it.
take it.
I know. Yeah, I know. Why wouldn't he take it?
Because I don't think he has to, and I don't think Auburn would offer it to him.
Well, look, Hugh Freeze would be a win on the field, right? A great football coach.
Mm-hmm.
But if Bryan Harsin were to be let go, or there's some sort of mutual parting of the ways for misconduct unbecoming,
That's a different story.
if that were to happen,
That's a
how
different
much
story.
more difficult does it become to go get Hugh Freeze given his past? Because then you have to tell the fan base.
That's where you make the decision.
Yeah.
Either A, we can't afford to take any risks on this next guy. We're just going to go get the most clean-cut, buttoned-up guy on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Or you say, you know what? I'll look at what Bama's doing. And look, everybody's made mistakes, okay? Pete Golding just got a DUI.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not perfect everywhere.
Sure.
And Hugh Freeze has made mistakes. But I think and we've had him on the show, I think he's done a good job in coming back from it. Liberty, which they're not just hiring felons off the street at Liberty. He's gone there. He's cleaned it up. We hear him talking about it. And he was very blunt with us over a year ago when he came on the show about it. So I am a believer in giving guys second chances. Now, I also don't think Hugh would toe the line and put himself at risk again, especially if he gets another chance. Like the Bruce Pearl, Chuck Person situation, that's 100% different. Chuck Person did that on his own. I don't think Hugh Freeze would go out there and push the envelope from a nefarious standpoint. I think he would see it as, I've got another opportunity at the highest level. Like we always say, what's the saying? We sippeth from the cuppeth.
Yep.
And I am going to do everything that I can to do it the right way on and off the field. So would it not almost be better to have a guy who's made mistakes and learn from them, in my opinion, which would lessen the chance of him making mistakes, or getting a guy that really hasn't made mistakes or been caught making mistakes and has gotten away with it and bring him in here, bring him to Auburn and see how it does. So how he does. So I think you can look at it multiple ways, and it is hypothetical. And we're going to keep tracking it. Yeah. It's a developing story, but it's not the only thing going on in the sport.
I mean, you got Kendall Briles over there at Arkansas.
Kendall. I like Kendall.
Looking nice.
That's
what he's done with that team, especially
you think
that
he's
offense.
Ready?
There's only one way to find out.
That's true. Scared money don't make money.
Well, if Auburn, if they have to let Bryan Harsin go and they got this one wrong, because that's what it would be if you had to let a guy go after one season, then you have to get the next one right. Yeah. So you would like to do that with a guy who is a proven winner, but this late in the game.
Yeah, and people say, oh, well, are they going to turn in Tennessee? Are they going to turn in Nebraska? I don't think so.
Yeah. Do you want to move to college basketball?
Let's move to some hoops.
Let's move to college basketball. We had Arizona UCLA last night. Yeah. Not too good for UCLA.
No, look, and you talked about it. You brought it up. Arizona got it put to them when they went and played UCLA earlier in the year. Johnny Juzang was coming off sitting 2 games because of COVID protocol. UCLA during this game, Arizona early, you could see was really establishing the paint. They were getting easy buckets. Yep. It wasn't like both teams came out and were on fire from 3. UCLA struggled to shoot the 3 last night. Juzang, the drive was working a little bit. They were getting to the line a little bit, but they never really went on a run. Arizona got out in front, stayed out in front. UCLA pushed them a little bit late. Tiger Campbell made some big plays late. Then he fouled out on a play, that 5th foul. He shouldn't have done that. I think he got a little over antsy. And every time they would get a little bit close, Arizona would make a play. Dalen's a heck of a player. Almost had a triple-double. Koloko down low, Balo down low. They've got big guys, and they were able to kind of push UCLA around a little bit in the back end. My question was, when you got toward the end of the game, you're letting Riley take shots?
Multiple shots.
Multiple big shots. Basically all of them at the end.
Yeah.
And he was struggling. That's not the guy that needs to be taking those shots. It needs to be Juzang. I know Campbell was out. It needs to be Juzang, or it needs to be Jaquez.
Yeah. Well, Juzang got in foul trouble early. He
did.
2 extremely early. And I saw Arizona attack a lot more, especially in the paint. I mean, they ended up shooting 30 free throws to UCLA's 12.
They were physical.
Which is huge. UCLA got out-rebounded by 12. At the end of the day, I kind of hit this on the other show, man. If you're not shooting threes, you have to have some sort of inside presence. You have to have it, or you're not going to be able to do anything, right? And you saw Arizona, who didn't shoot the ball that well, attack, go in the paint, start to kick it out, and start to lean on guys. And you saw that, especially late in the second half in that game. They started kicking it down low, right? And UCLA could do nothing about it except foul. And when you get 30 shots from the free throw line, you're not going to lose a lot of games.
Yeah, and Arizona was missing free throws too early in the second half as well. But over time, they had accumulated so much. And, UCLA's style is more slowed down. You watch Tiger Campbell. He likes walking the ball up the court. They like working the sides. That's kind of how Mick Cronin operates. Arizona wanted to get out and run. And when Arizona got in the half-court set, I thought they did a better job of UCLA than UCLA in the half-court set of running their stuff and getting the ball where they wanted. They were working inside. They were working inside out. They got the matchups they wanted. When UCLA would switch, they were getting the matchups they wanted, and they were exploiting them. And like Blaine said, they weren't hitting a ton of threes, but they were getting good shots.
Yep.
A lot of high percentage shots. So Arizona, I think they're a top 3 or 4 team. Look, I think UCLA still wins Pac-12. I know they're in second right now. I think they're 8-2 in the league. Arizona's 8-1. I like UCLA to win.
It'll be interesting.
But UCLA has some holes. I mean, it's a Shia LaBeouf situation,
especially when Juzang is that cold. I mean, I've never seen him that cold.
Well, he's their guy. When they got to go get a bucket,
he's their guy.
He's
their guy. And if he lights up this tournament like he did last tournament, then they could make a deep run.
And they return a
beyond
lot
just
of the
their
same
conference
guys who played in
championship.
March.
And that was
really
kind
well.
of strange watching that game. You know, they weren't going to Johnny to hit those shots
That did surprise me.
weren't.
like they normally do.
At the end. That's what I'm saying. Riley, why is Riley shooting those shots? A good shot for Riley is worse than a bad shot for Juzang, in my opinion.
100% correct.
Well, Arizona was physical and efficient. That's what I saw last
Yep.
night. Physical and efficient, and it seems like they can win without relying on just one guy, which is interesting.
Well, what do we say? What do the best teams do?
Great
They can win in
teams
what?
can win in multiple ways, and it looked like
Versatility.
Arizona
The best tility
can do
is
that.
versatility. The best ability is stability. The best tility is versatility.
Now look, they lost at UCLA. UCLA lost at them. It will be interesting in the conference championship.
It will be. I think these teams, again, I do like UCLA to win the Pac-12, but there are some great matchups this weekend
Yep.
we want to dive into across the country. You want to start Duke?
Keys to victory.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
go.
I want to hear your thoughts on Duke, North Carolina,
Okay.
Alabama, Kentucky, and Baylor, Kansas. And if you want to touch on any of the other ones like USC, Arizona, we can. But I want keys to victory. Let's start. Where do you want to start?
Start Duke and North
Duke, North Carolina.
Yep, Coach K's last trip to the Dean Dome. Unbelievable career, one of the greatest coaches ever in college basketball. Really took that Duke program and skyrocketed into what we know now. If I had to pick a key, this is a very simple one for me. You know, people will talk about the guards and making threes and this, that, and the other. But Mark Williams and Armando Bacot, that's the matchup. That's the matchup. Two really good players down low. Who's going to control the paint? Who's going to stay out of foul trouble? So the key to victory is it's in the trenches. This game's in the trenches because you got two legit guys down there. Bacot just went for what, 24 and 19 the other night. Mark Williams has been playing as well as any big man in the country. Does a great job at the rim. He's athletic. He can shoot. He can run. They both can run. So to me, this is a battle of who can stay out of foul trouble down low between Mark Williams and Armando Bacot. Because if those guys are cooking, it condenses everything, right? That's when you get your kick out.
Yep.
That's when you can hit the snipers. That's when you can make them pay.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this game's going to come down to huge. It's going to come down to rebounding.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to rebounding. Duke's done a lot better the last 3 or 4 games in rebounding. But, North Carolina doesn't force you into a lot of mistakes on defense.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. And you go back to kind of when North Carolina played Kentucky and Tennessee, they got killed. Because they got what? They got killed on the boards.
Yeah.
Got killed on the boards. And,
it's got to be more than Armando. Bradley Mannix has to show up, too.
Yeah, I agree.
He's got to help. He can't just be a trailer. This isn't the preview before a movie.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that Duke will have a longer tournament run than North Carolina this season, and maybe even win the ACC tournament championship. And I'll tell you what, Coach K does not want his last trip to Chapel Hill to result in a loss, but North Carolina is on a 4-game win streak.
Yeah, North Carolina's not going to take, those fans aren't going to take it easy on him because it's his last time in the Dean Dome. I think
they're going to come out, I think they're going to come out right.
But I think it may be cool if they didn't. I know it's a heated rivalry and a hated rivalry, and we watched Auburn, Alabama play, and they gave a tribute to Fluff before the game. There's some things that are a little bit bigger.
Oh, they're going to.
Going on. I think the respect level, I think that's what makes the Duke-North Carolina rivalry, unbelievably good, is the respect level.
For sure.
You see between those two teams and those coaches. Roy Williams now being gone, Coach K being gone. It's going to be interesting to see, you got Hubert Davis, their coach from North Carolina, to see Duke see two new coaches
his first one
restoring that rivalry.
And
for sure.
If you're a fan, sometimes you just need to sit back and appreciate what you see in front of you.
Yeah.
You lost Tom, just legends, good Coach K.
Big Ben.
Just Big Ben. Just, really sit back and enjoy what you've seen and remember these guys because it'll never be the same after these guys go.
Yeah.
So
but then you turn the chapter, and this is what sports does. You're going to have your new up-and-comers. When we were talking about Joe Burrow and some of these other guys, you look at the quarterbacks that are up-and-coming, the Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons. Patrick's already won one. And you go down the list. There's some really good players in the league that are trying to be that next guy that has a huge impact before he leaves. So what game you want to break down
and
next?
That's great for the game. Let's go Baylor, Kansas. Top 10 matchup this Saturday.
Key to victory. Who's healthy?
Yeah.
Who's healthy? Abaji was out the other night against Iowa State, even though Kansas was able to win. McCormick's beat up down low, and we called him out. He had a big game against Iowa State. But Iowa State, they're not the Warriors. And they're not one of the best teams in the country, even though taking that team from a 2-win team the year before, it shows you what the transfer portal can do for you. Bringing in a new coach, flipping that around. They're ranked. They're going to make the tournament, speaking of Iowa State. But then you look on the Baylor side. Is Eldre Cryer going to play? How healthy is Akinjo? Is Flagler going to play? If you take out Flagler and you take out Cryer, and there's another narrative here building up a little bit as well. The last time Kansas played in Fog Allen, or at Allen Fieldhouse, they got destroyed by Kentucky.
Yep,
That cuts you deep.
I know.
That cuts you deep. Mr. Steal Yo Girl. It cuts you deep. So I know Kansas is going to be perturbed, to put it lightly,
to say the least,
to defend their home court. We can talk about health, and that's the key. That's a huge key because that changes the dynamic of the game. But schematically, if everything's even and everybody's healthy, I still like Kansas at home.
Okay.
I still like him at home. Christian Brown, I use this term a lot. He's applying the moisturizer from everywhere outside. Christian Downtown Brown. Abaji, look, he can go off for 40, even against Baylor. But this Baylor team is not. Don't confuse this Baylor team with last year's Baylor team.
Not the same.
For sure.
They're not the same at all. I love Everyday John down low. Kendall Brown, freak athlete, going to be a pretty good NBA player. He develops a shot, he could be the NBA All-Star. Sohan, we talk about him all the time, the big German. But Baylor, to me, I don't think they're connected as they were last year, and I think Kansas is going to be pissed. Go ahead.
This matchup's interesting because it's not a must-win for either team, right? They're going to be in the tournament. You know what I'm saying? But Baylor can't afford to slip too much more than they have.
They have three Big 12 losses, somewhere around there?
This is a big one in the Big 12. 3 losses in the last 10 days or 2 weeks.
The Big 12's been beating each other up.
They, like I said, not a must-win for either team, but they really can't slip any further than they have. Last 2 weeks have been rough for them. On the flip side of that, like you said, Kansas got embarrassed by Kentucky at home. So now we have a Saturday matchup where we can really see these two teams go at each other, both of whom have struggled recently, but both of whom are also going to make the tournament and potentially make a deep run in the tournament. I think one of them, regardless, look, I want to see Baylor healthy. I just want to just because it's good for college basketball, right? But one of them needs to sort of take this mantle and say, look, we are the team in the Big 12, and we're the team who's going to represent this conference moving forward in the tournament, make a Final Four, something like that.
Blaine,
right?
what do you think?
I think this game's going to come down, if you're Baylor, it's defense. It's defense. I mean, obviously the defense is not the same that it was last year, but this Baylor team's defense this year it's not even close. And you have the guys to be good on defense. And if you're this Baylor team, you're playing against Kansas, you need to run Kansas. You need to dictate the pace in this game. You go back to that Kentucky game versus Kansas. Did Kansas get beat down low a lot? Yeah, that's fine. But Kentucky ran them. Yeah. Up and down the court, they controlled the pace of the game. And then you flip it to the Kansas side. Kansas is 15-0 when they score more than 72 points.
They are 15-0 when they score more than
15-0 when they score more than 72
I'm not
points.
a trends guy, but that's a pretty.
I mean that's and that kind of.
So they should probably score 73.
Yeah,
or 72.
Yeah, 72. It's a good formula for them. But the bigs for Kansas have to show up in this game.
Yeah,
they have to show up in this game.
McCormick's the key, and he's gone in and out. Sometimes he's on the back of a milk cart, and sometimes on the front of Sports Illustrated. I mean, it just depends on what the night is. But look, and the funny part is, the best team in the Big 12 isn't playing in that game, at least in my opinion. I think Texas Tech's best team in the Big 12. I think they're the best team.
You've been saying that.
Defense.
You've been saying that.
Look, those guys. We talk about connected. I mean, those guys they're playing Connect 4 out there.
And then
they're really playing Connect 5.
Texas Iowa State will also be a matchup this Saturday.
Texas,
so we'll keep
I go back and forth on Texas.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on
Still a top 20 matchup, but not a top 10 like Baylor, Kansas. Kentucky, Alabama. I mean, what does Alabama have to do here? I mean, Kentucky seems to be sort of slipping away in terms of how good they are from, the rest of the middle of the pack. It seems like Kentucky and
it's Auburn and Kentucky. I think Auburn and Kentucky are two of the top 3 teams in the country.
Yeah, and it seems like there was a lot of parity in the SEC, and Auburn and Kentucky are sort of slipping away, right?
They are. You can have parity and have the upper
There's tiers to
as
this.
well. Yeah.
Like Alabama, Georgia, and football, but the rest of the SEC was really good.
Look, when you play each other that much, somebody's got to lose.
We're talking Alabama's kind of like what we were saying about Baylor. They can't slip too much further, right?
You know what the key, and Blaine kind of hit a little bit. Nate Oates was talking about this in his post-game press conference after the Auburn game. The key for Alabama in this game and Kentucky, who plays better transition defense? Who plays better transition defense? What do both these teams want to do?
Run.
Track meet. At home, Quinterly, and look, Shackelford's been getting his. Yeah. He's been getting his like Bezos.
But is that going to continue every game?
But here's the thing. It's not just about their guards playing offense. And I'm not talking about their guards, but everybody's talking about, the tenacity against the half-court set. It's in transition. Where Alabama gets hurt defensively is in transition. And that's Kentucky's game. Ty Washington and Xavier, the four-wheeler, are running up and down the court.
Yeah.
They want to turn. They want Jboy to follow. If they do got to go half-court set, they're going to get it down to him. We know Oscar, the machine, is going to get a ton of boards. But which team can play better transition defense? Because it's not just about stopping layups. It's not just about blocking layups. What do we see a ton in transition? Kick, drive, kick. Threes in transition. Kellen Grady for Kentucky is one of the best transition three shooters in the country. Whether it's the corner, whether it's the wing, whether it's the top, that's what you have to stop. Because if you let them get in transition and then when it's not transition, you let Ty and them get in the gaps, Kentucky's going to beat you. And a lot of people will look to Jboy in this game because Bediako's just not ready.
Nope.
He's not ready. Juwan Gary, he's not going to be consistent enough down there as a physical presence to give you what you need night in and night out to be able to beat a team like Kentucky or beat good teams on a regular basis. That's why you've seen them go like this. And people say, okay, well, you're playing down your competition. Okay. But at this point, you should know that already. We're not 4 games in. This isn't after the Iona game. So you are who you are. I think Alabama's just inconsistent. And it's not as much about the three ball as everybody talks about. Alabama has won games not shooting the three well. One of the best two-point shooting teams in the country. Why is that? It's not because they're feeding the post in the half-court set and guys are hitting turnaround hooks and guys are getting and ones and dunks at the goal. Anything they get out of a half-court set down low, really, is Quinterly or Shackelford driving. It's in transition. J.D. Davison struggles in a half-court set. Look at him in the Auburn game. Whenever he came in, when Shackelford had to go out because of foul trouble, he does not operate well in that space. Where does J.D. Davison play well? In transition. So which team, whether it's Kentucky or whether it's Alabama, is going to man up defensively in transition? Who's going to hustle back? Who's going to meet guys at the rim? This will not be a half-court game. This will be a transition game. That's the key to me.
Yeah, I agree. In the words of Jaden Shackelford and Quinterly, someone help me.
Yeah.
Help me.
Somebody help me. They can't do it by themselves, which they almost
Noah
do
Gurley?
every night.
They
They can't do it.
Keon-
every
Darius
night.
Miles has to show up.
Keon Ellis, where are you?
Yeah,
J.D.
that's
Davison.
a great call.
Where are you? And and I kind of think for this Alabama team, how are you going to strategize versus Kentucky, right? Because you don't have anything that can match Oscar.
No.
Not even
You better
close.
swarm. That's
Not
it.
even close. On the offense side of the ball, do you run 5 out?
Well, here's what, Blaine, here's what people will say. They'll be like, well, Baylor was a lot bigger than Alabama. Baylor doesn't have Oscar Jboy.
No.
Oscar Jboy is a human rebounding vacuum. He's a vacuum on the offensive boards, on the defensive boards. Here's where if I'm Nate Oates, I'm very, very worried. Oscar Jboy getting second chance opportunities, not just to go up, but go up and get fouled, or go up and because of Bediako gets in foul trouble, which is a very real thing. If I'm Alabama, what did we say the other night about the way Vanderbilt handled Jboy as compared to how Wisconsin handled Kofi?
Yeah.
You got to go right at him.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be physical with them from the jump. Look, Sheboy's going to get his.
Yeah.
You're he's not going to get his. But how's he going to get him? Are you going to let him dominate the game? Vanderbilt frustrated Jboy, and you're Alabama, you're at home in Coleman Coliseum. It's going to be a big game, ESPN night game. They've been talking about it all week. And Bama fans, though, you just announced a new arena that's going to be 10,000 seats, even though Nate Oates was making fun of Auburn Arena for being small. And then his wife goes on Twitter, which I'm sure he was not happy about, saying Jungle Who. It's like, well, the jungle that just beat y'all's ass up and down. But to me, this will be a track meet. And what it comes down to is who will play the best defense during the track.
Yeah, because it's just not a winning strategy to have Shackelford and Quinterly go for 25 plus every single night. They're
It's not going to
getting
happen.
Any help
That's
from
asking
the front
too much.
court. They're just not going to be able to do it every single time, and they're having to have that just to have a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, if Shackelford and Quinterly both go off for more than 25 in a night, that should be an automatic win.
Yeah.
They're getting nothing from the front court. Like I've been saying, look, obviously Herb Jones is a lot to replace.
And John Petty.
And John Petty
And
John
Primo.
Petty, but especially Herb Jones because of the defensive presence and the rebounding
Bruner.
presence. Maybe this will be the weekend that we see J.D. Davison break out and
He's
say,
gonna
you know
have-
what?
look.
I am young. It took me a little while. The learning curve was a little bit steep. But look, it is still February. There's no better time to get hot than February if you're wanting to do something significant in March and in March Madness. Maybe this is the weekend.
If you're Alabama, do you realistically think you can beat these guys in a track meet?
I think that's one of the only ways. Because the longer you give Jboy to sit down there and see the trajectory of that ball, he's the best in the country at it. It's not even close.
Yeah.
If this turns in, I think for Bama to operate at full pace offensively, it's not running a ton of sets. I know they run their go screens. Nate's got good stuff, but that's not who Alabama is. See, this is where the matchups I find the most interesting. A lot of people think, oh, the matchups that are most interesting is this side of the spectrum versus that side of the spectrum. Triple option team versus a full up-tempo team, or more traditional, and talking about in football, pro-style, traditional team versus up-tempo, spread it out, let's rock and roll. I think the most interesting matchups are when, the like the office, when they're just pointing at each other, they do the same stuff. You operate at the same pace because you know what you're doing. You know what they want to do. So now it comes down to, look, this is us. Who's going to do it better? Or what adjustments, what small adjustments? Or does one team say, you know what? They're thinking fastball.
Yeah,
let's throw the curveball. Does one team slow it down? And if one team slows it down, I'd be willing to bet all of King Midas's silver that it's Kentucky.
Really? You don't think it'd be Alabama?
No, because look at Alabama versus Baylor. When were they cooking?
When they were
When
running.
is Alabama ever cooking? They're running. How many times have you be like, man, Bama just slowed it down and ran a lot of half-court set stuff. They worked their horn set, all this. How many times have we said that? Never.
I mean, not a lot.
Winter
Maybe that's the problem.
Quinterly can win.
I mean, no, but they've shown they can do it.
Yeah,
they went up
that's
to
what I was
Gonzaga and ran
that's
them out
what
the gym.
That's what I was thinking for Alabama. Why not like a little 5-out? A little 5-out. What do defense struggle against Alabama, especially in the Baylor game?
Well, here's
staying
the problem.
in front of people. You're not going to stay in front of Shaq for the Quinter.
Oh, okay. If it was that simple, they'd do it. Here's the problem. If you go 5-out, because what you're saying is you want to bring Jboy out there,
Yeah,
right?
just to have a chance
If you
to
go out there,
rebound.
what 5 is going to go out there that scares the hell out of you to shoot a 3?
That's the thing.
Is Bediako going to do
They
it?
don't have
But
that.
the only answer is this. You say, okay,
But Rojas.
well, I would make him have to prove it.
Now
But
might be
Rojas-
the time. Now might be the time because Bediako, you're not getting anything.
You're
from
not
him
getting
anyway.
out of Bediako. Or, and that's, I'd like to counter on Rojas, or you say, you know what? We'll go small. But if you go small, you will never get a rebound. Jboy will have 30 rebounds.
You might
I'm
not get
joking.
one anyway,
He'll
though.
have 30 rebounds.
You might not get one anyway. I mean,
You might
Bediako's
not,
not
but
going to
look-
be going toe-to-toe with
Look,
him. So,
if you're going to do it to me, if you're going to try that, you better try it early.
yeah. Get
agree.
creative.
You better try it early.
Yeah.
Because it can't be a situation where, like, you know what, tell the citizens
Get
get in votes and
creative
go
early.
save them. Even though that worked, like, you don't want to have to gamble in that way. But it's going to be a hell of a game. I'm very interested to see. We'll drop our picks on social media tomorrow morning.
Yeah, the lines aren't
Lions
out
got to
just
get the
yet.
lines coming out.
When the lines come out, and I want to see who's healthy for Baylor as well.
All right, you want to go to the booster?
Booster Club, please.
All right, we got some questions here we got a question here from Bama B-Ball. It's kind of funny. We're already on that.
Okay.
And he asked, I don't understand the inconsistency of this basketball team. What would this team have to change to make a deep run in March?
Stylistically and style of play, Bama is who they are. That's who Nate Oates is. He says the best shots are at the free throw line. Second best shot is a layup or dunk. Third best shot is a 3. That's how they play. They want to play fast. It's not a scheme change to me as much as it is the personnel. You talked about it. You made a great point, Blaine. And I don't mean to say that like you rarely do, but Keon Ellis was a dog last year. He's a problem. This year, I really believe he's too worried about the officials. All you see him do during the whole game is complain to the officials. This, that, and the other. This, that, and the other. This, that, and the other. He needs to just focus because he's a really good player.
Yeah.
He can shoot the 3. He can drive. He can defend. He's long. He's got to play better. Noah Gurley has not been what they thought he was going to be. He has not been that guy. Bediako, you're going to get what you want to get. I think the kid has a chance. I think he was a little bit overrated, like J.D. Davison didn't show you. He's a little bit overrated. J.D. was supposed to be a top 10 Jabari Smith type player. You had guys that with a lot of credit on Twitter saying he could be the best player to ever come from Alabama. Well, you're wrong on that. You missed that. To quote to act like a Wisconsin guard shooting a three. You missed that one, buddy.
He could be there for 4 years and not be better than Herb Jones.
Yeah, Charles Barkley. I mean, we go down the list. But this Alabama team, it's more of a personnel problem than it is a
Which you also can't change now.
Which you can't change
in the middle
now.
of the season.
All right, we got a question here from Eric Blair. Will the SEC start getting 2 teams in the Final Four every year like they get 2 teams in the playoffs every year in football?
Look, a lot of it has to depend on where they put them in the tournament. Now, I think the SEC, and we've talked about it till we're blue in the face, has upgraded Beyonce style. I think they're the best conference in college basketball. I mean, Jay Billis, you got guys now really believing that the SEC is the best team in college basketball. Do I think that's far-fetched that the SEC would get 2 in the Final Four at a decent rate? No, but a lot of it depends on where the seeding is and the year. It's a lot different when you're talking about a 68-team tournament as opposed to a 4-team tournament. Mm-hmm. Not that it's easier, on any flip of the coin, but the path you have to go through in that many games to get there is a lot different than just a regular season. Yep. So it's a great question. I would say I would not be shocked. I would say having one SEC team in the Final Four is something at least one is something you're going to see on the regular. Right. And the difference of teams in the Final Four. We're not talking about just Kentucky or Florida. We've seen South Carolina. We've seen Auburn. We know Arkansas is a problem. I mean, it could be a different team every year. That's what makes the conference better.
Beautiful. It kind of leads me into this next question. We got a question here from Marky Mark. He says, what's more likely for Alabama and Georgia to make it to the championship game next year, or Gonzaga and Baylor to play in the national championship game in basketball?
Oh, look, Alabama and Georgia in football to make it next year. That's easy. I'm telling you right now, I've watched Gonzaga, and I've watched Chet Holmgren, the unicorn. I don't believe in him. I don't believe in them. And I know they can only play who they play. Nembhard, to me, is a really good player. He's not Jalen Suggs. People forget Jalen Suggs.
Dog.
Whew. Which? They don't have it. Timmy is a really good post player, but when he goes against guys that are bigger and athletic, he struggles. They just move him out of the way. And Chet Holmgren, he's 9 feet tall, but he's also 95 pounds. I know he can shoot the three. I don't think he's soft. Chet will go in there, but you'll go in there against San Diego. Mm-hmm. You'll go in there against Loyola Marymount. Will you go in there against Baylor? If you had to play him again, I'm not talking about in the national championship. I don't think, and I want to say this, and I told you this last night. I don't think Gonzaga makes the Elite Eight.
I don't think that's correct.
I don't think they make the Elite Eight. Who have they beaten? Who have they played? You played Bama, and I know it's one game of basketball, but you got thrown out of the club. So I question Gonzaga's physicality. I do. I question their talent level. Jalen Suggs Gonzaga last year had the best team they've ever had. And Jalen Suggs was a huge part of that. They don't have that guy anymore. And you can do it against, San Diego. And Florence Nightingale State. And hey, let's read a book together, Tech.
Alabama ran them.
They ran them.
Yeah.
I don't think they get to the Elite Eight. I wouldn't be shocked if they got bounced in the second round if they play somebody like in Oklahoma.
But you for sure think they'll be a 1 seed just because of where they play.
Look at who they're playing. Yeah. Who they play next? Oh, we looked at their schedule. Oh, man, BYU. I know BYU's a good team, but when that's the best team, then you play like St. Petersburg.
I see one ranked person on one ranked team.
And you're playing Hufflepuff.
Hey, they're not that bad this year.
Yeah, they aren't.
All right, we got a question here from SEC Mike, and he wants to know if you had to buy stock in either South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, or Missouri for the next 5 years, who are you taking and why?
In football?
In football.
I want to take Tennessee out of this because I don't know what the NCAA is going to do to them.
Okay.
I think you got to remove them. If I had to pick through the other three, so South Carolina, Missouri, and Kentucky, I'm taking Kentucky. Mark Stoops, best coach in Lexington. Been saying it.
Really?
I think he's the best coach in Lexington.
Really?
We talk about how Bruce Pearl turning Auburn from a football school to a basketball school. Mark Stoops has made football sexy in Kentucky, and they're recruiting, and they're physical. And they have what? stability. I know they just lost their offensive line coach to Bama, but if you're going to lose a coach to somebody, it's probably a good compliment when Bama's coming like, you made a good decision, Mark. I'll take Eric. Thank you.
You know what? Give me Shane Beamer and the boys.
Yeah, I think so.
Give me
You think
Shane
South Carolina?
Beamer and the boys, man.
I'll take Shane Beamer.
Y'all remember there.
I know, and I love Shane. I think Shane's going to do a good job, but if I had to pick one, I'm taking Kentucky. I know Shane's up and coming. It's cool. It's swagalicious. They got Spencer Rattler. They did well in the portal. But Kentucky's just like,
Yeah.
and Kentucky's like, well, we'll throw it. We'll start to throw it. You know, you got Levis coming back. I just, over the long term.
You can't do this against Georgia. That's the problem.
Yeah, but who
You
can
know?
really do that
I
against
know.
Georgia?
Well, no one right now, but
So, I mean, if that's the standard, then damn. You know,
Good luck.
that sucks.
yeah.
All right, we got a question here from Aggie Land.
Last one.
After the class Texas A&M signed this year, what should the expectations be for A&M fans?
Championships. Talked about this yesterday. You've checked everything off the list. You've checked it all off the list. What's the last thing? Win the whole thing. Or at least represent the West. You have to at least represent the West. 8-4 is not good enough anymore. Hell, 9-3 is not good enough anymore. Eventually, you got to get there. I think they will eventually. I don't think next year. How patient will A&M fans be? What if it takes 3 years? What if he racks up 2 more number 1 classes, but they don't represent the West?
I don't think they have a choice but to be patient.
Exactly.
They don't have a choice.
That's what the market's bearing. Now, they could next year, but you look at that schedule, and A&M fans have been patient for a long time. And if I'm an A&M fan, I'm as excited about Buzz Williams than about anything. They've been punching above their weight. I know they've dropped a couple here just because their roster. But A&M, the next thing is the last thing. It's the last thing. SEC championship, get in the playoff. What else is there for them to do? All the talking's done. All the recruiting, catching up with everybody, that's done. Next thing on the list is a ring. And that's the last thing. But great stuff, guys. Shout out to the Booster Club, the greatest grassroots movement, since math.
Ooh.
You know, since they came up with math.
It's been around for a while.
It has.
Yeah.
At least that's what they told us. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Have a great weekend. We're going to drop our picks on social media. It's at the Jboy Show, at Crane Blaine.
Yes, sir.
And at David Cohn.
David Adam Cone.
David Adam
Hey,
Cohn.
I think.
A lot of
look
imagination
out.
there. You're a real Dr. Seuss there, Cohn. But no, I appreciate you guys joining us. And maybe like Bryan Harsin's career at Auburn, we're going. Gone.